Thank you to all the supporters and donators who have helped to make this work possible.
And now back to your regularly scheduled deprogramming.
Defend women and girls! Defend women and girls! Defend women and girls!
United Nations for the future
generations!
Defend women and girls!
Defend women and girls! Defend women and girls!
We are adults,
Human females! And we won't back down!
defend women and girls!
Defend women and girls!
In 2019, the UN Human Rights Council put forth a resolution which made clear an international agenda to decimate the legal distinctions between the sexes and destroy the rights of women and girls. The resolution cited numerous UN documents containing the word gender and sought to retroactively change all mentions of gender and gender equality within all UN documents to include the term gender identity. This means initiatives originally presented to further rights for females worldwide are now being directed towards the promotion of policies that undermine the needs and rights of women and girls to access single-sex spaces. I'm in the car with Beth Stelzer, Amy Souza, and Gina Hoach, and we're on our way to the United Nations headquarters in New York City, and we are going to be protesting the sustainability goals, the UN Agenda 2030, specifically sustainability goal number 5, which is so-called gender equality. But you know and we know what they mean when they say gender equality. They mean the erasure of the sex-based rights of women and girls, and we're not having it. So if you're listening to this, you're the resistance, we're the resistance, and listen to this message and get it out to the world. A nonpartisan international coalition made up of individual women and women's organizations gathered on the occasion of the United Nations 66th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. The women registered a voice of non-consent for UN policies, resolutions, and campaigns that include the concept of gender identity into the definition of sex, thereby eliminating the possibility of identifying females as a biologically distinct group from males and diminishing sex-based protections for the most vulnerable women and girls around the world.
Wake up! Open your eyes!
UN propaganda lies!
The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are 17 targets we must meet by 2030 to ensure decent lives for all on a healthy planet.
Navi Pillay is the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights.
Homophobia and transphobia are no different to sexism, misogyny, racism, or xenophobia. Last year, my office launched the first UN public information campaign against homophobia and transphobia, free and equal. Our message is loud and clear. Trans and gender variant people are entitled to no more and no less than the same rights as everyone else.
We must protect the basic human rights of LGBT people. But it doesn't just require changes in laws and policies. It takes changes in people's hearts and minds. Like the struggle against racism, like the struggle for gender equality, the struggle for LGBT equality will only be won if we join together. Together, we can build a world that is free and equal.
Did you know that the UN Sustainable Development Goals are a universal call to action that unites 193 countries around the world?
Gender equality into a lived reality.
It's up to all of us
to ensure the journey is successful.
At the UN, world leaders have spoken up to defend the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex people.
Ladies and gentlemen, Glamour Woman of the Year, Ambassador Samantha Power.
One of the most polarizing issues at the UN is LGBT rights.
Hi everybody, Samantha Power, the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, here today with the great Caitlyn Jenner.
Yay!
For so long, transgender people laboring without feeling the affirmation that you have been able to offer. We have tried here at the United Nations so hard to lift up LGBT rights. We've made some progress.
Let me begin by thanking the more than 20 governments and the European Union for co-sponsoring this event, as well as the co-sponsoring non-governmental organizations, which have conducted relentless advocacy on behalf of transgender people worldwide. I'm proud to join you for the first UN side event that the United States has sponsored on the human rights of transgender and gender diverse individuals. We must stand up and say with one voice that transgender individuals, like all LGBTQI individuals, are entitled to the enjoyment of human rights.
Whether you are an LGBTIQ+ individual working for the UN, or an ally who believes in equality for all, you can add your voice to the conversations we are having by joining us at unglobe.org.
We've been pushing this idea. We've been pushing this idea, not an idea, but this fact. Not an idea, but this fact that LGBT rights are human rights.
The United Nations is the world body to protect and promote the human rights for all. We have to make sure that we combat transphobia.
For so long, the transgender community, the T in the LGBT, was kind of pushed under the rug. It was like, if you had a trans child, it was like, oh my God, I can't talk about this. That doesn't have to happen. You know, they're out there. Kind of God made us all. You know, it's a rainbow. You know, it's a colorful rainbow. And this is part of that rainbow.
Stand with us to reject discrimination in all forms and embrace diversity as a strength.
We're lifting up the remarkable contributions transgender and gender diverse people are making to our country and the world, because diversity makes us stronger. That's certainly true for the State Department, and it's true across our government and society. Sarah McBride's service is testament to that.
I am thrilled to be introducing our next woman of distinction, Sarah McBride.
My name is Sarah McBride, and I am a proud transgender American.
A big moment coming out of the 2020 election. Sarah McBride is the first openly transgender state senator to be elected in the United States. The 30-year-old will soon represent the 1st State Senate District in Delaware. McBride is currently the spokesperson for the Human Rights Campaign, the nation's largest LGBTQ advocacy organization.
Sarah, you are an inspiration not only to the LGBT community, but for women everywhere striving to create a more equal world where people are not held back based on their gender or sexuality. Your passion for equality and your determination to be your authentic self are empowering.
So is Dr. Rachel Levine's. She's the U.S. Assistant Secretary for Health, the highest-ranking openly transgender person ever to serve in our government.
Last year, Rachel made history, becoming the first openly transgender four-star officer across uniformed services. Admiral Rachel Levine is a groundbreaking leader, public health champion, and an advocate.
Trans rights are human rights. You have worth. You have tremendous worth just for who you are, no matter who you love, no matter who you are, no matter what your gender identity, sexual orientation, or anything else. And it highlights something which I truly believe in, which is the value of diversity.
Do you want a pretty face? Or do you want somebody who's actually going to be strong on gender issues? As the American ambassador to the United Nations, the salience of my Americanness is greater than the salience of my womanness.
We really need to welcome diversity and actually celebrate diversity for what it brings to us as a nation and what it brings to us globally.
It has 17 goals and gender equality cuts across all of them.
By achieving these goals, we will form a society where strong institutions ensure peace and justice. It is important for everyone to be involved and to build partnerships for achieving sustainable development goals.
This should be an effort that we all get together behind, and we have a vehicle. It's a corporate structure on a global scale that can really kind of go out there and make a difference. But with that, we also need, like the UN, we need a place where we can go to get the right people to get involved, to get in the right positions down the line.
You are part of this process. Demand the implementation of these goals. Take the lead and share information with your friends.
Diversity is just so important in our culture. It's important for our country, for the world.
We're really here to voice our dissent. It's not as much as a protest as it is a public record of our dissent against female erasure. We're really excited to be here. We're all really passionate for women and girls.
We would like to call your attention to the history of this land. We are gathered here on the traditional territories of the Lenni Lenape indigenous peoples who thrived here before becoming subject to colonization, genocide, and forced relocation. Today, the place known as Lenape lies somewhere beneath the concrete and sediment, and in its place, a mangled web of steel cables and skyscrapers has grown. We stand here at the gates of the United Nations Global Headquarters compound. The United Nations encompasses over 15 global agencies, which include the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank Group, and the World Health Organization. We are here to sound the alarm of what is at stake and who is at fault. While it feels like the trans agenda is being advanced from all sectors of society, remember that corporate, nonprofit, and governmental bodies are all taking their cues from the central power that stands behind us. Trans politics is not an organic grassroots movement. These global transgressions against female sex-based rights are driven by a hegemonic world power greater than the US, UK, or any one nation. We stand here today because the United Nations is guilty of the erasure of female rights in language and law around the world, and we say no.
Women say no! Women say no!
Gender identity is not based in biological, objective reality. Rather, is a purely subjective, clever corporate fiction being used as a Trojan horse for the worldwide destruction of female sex-based rights and the erasure of the sexually dimorphic reality of humanity. Yes. In 2015, all 193 countries named as UN member states adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The UN describes their Agenda 2030 goals as a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and into the future. Sustainable Development Goal 5 is presented to us under the banner of gender equality. When the UN claims to be working to end discrimination against all women and girls, their definition of women and girls includes biological men and boys within the framework of gender identity.
Fight for future generations, all eyes on United Nations.
This deceptive wordplay renders the notion of gender equality 100% ineffective at protecting women and girls on the basis of our female biological sex in language and in law.
Defend women and girls! 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 Defend women and girls!
For the last decade, elements within the UN have engaged in increasingly aggressive measures to, in their words, establish legal gender recognition based on self-determination. With self-declared gender identity, there is no requirement that men have a medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria, that they take hormones, that they have genital surgery, that they not be convicted of sex crimes or violent crimes, that they not have sexual paraphilias. Bringing men into women's facility is putting all women in danger. Even were there to be gatekeeping to block, say, male sexual offenders, that's not good enough. Women and girls have a right to privacy and intimate spaces away from men. All men, men of any kind.
Women say no! Women say no! Women say no!
I was kicked out of a fertility awareness teacher training in 2020 for refusing to comply with the trans doctrine. 4 years before that was the beginning of my indoctrination, where at a birth doula training, I was told that it wasn't modern, inclusive, or progressive to refer to women, mothers as mothers, and breastfeeding as breastfeeding. Instead, I was asked to use the dehumanizing terms that were used to describe Black enslaved women in the United States.
It must not be overlooked that the historical roots of the ownership of the female body lies in slavery and colonization. While Native women were targeted for extermination specifically because of their reproductive capacity, enslaved Black women were raped and forcibly impregnated to increase free labor sources. Whether tracing the theft of labor that is slavery or the theft of land that is colonization, we arrive to the intersection of ownership of the female body and the fight for the right for women to own our own bodies, our own wombs, and the power to create and regulate future generations.
Here in the United States, the federal government is contemplating a bill that could ban women that fight transgender ideology from entering the country. The American Global Respect Act, which I disaffectionately call the Anti-Posie Parker Act, seeks to eliminate international solidarity bills and organize an effort by the women of the world.
USA, women say US to UK, women say no way. US to UK, women say no way.
The reason the UN has done this is because some predatory, rather perverse men have infiltrated the UN women. And so when we talk about the UN women and we look at their council, it's not surprising to see the old Adam's apple and very large man hands. They have a female name. They will be definitely influencing policy because, as we know, when there is a man who calls himself a woman in a woman's space, women seem to be quiet. Women are told, in no uncertain terms, that if they defend women's rights against men who call themselves women, if they even talk about women as adult human females, as a single sex, they are told that they are bigoted and transphobic. And transphobic in the United States and the UK in 2022 means that you are not allowed to say women don't have penises. You are not allowed to say it is absolutely disgusting to be slicing off the breasts of 12-year-old girls in the name of gender identity. We have been told we've got this brand new language, transphobic. It simply means shut up, witch. Be quiet. Stay silent about what is happening to women across the globe. It's a really important thing to do to protest against the UN, because the UN is not fit for purpose when it comes to defending the rights of women. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Trans ideology necessarily erases women. It is inherently sexist, it is inherently homophobic, it is regressive. It is gay eugenics. Gender ideology is the antithesis of the liberation and the equality women have been fighting for since the second wave. And we cannot stand witness to this misogyny and erasure in silence.
Safeguards such as sex-based spaces are non-negotiable. A woman's no is non-negotiable. Right. Consent is not a consensus like the gender industry tries to pretend. No matter how many people say yes to men in women's spaces, it only takes one woman to know for a line to be drawn as her consent has been withdrawn.
I am a woman, a fact you can plainly see. Being a woman makes me uniquely positioned to become and be a mother. We mothers, we've been taught not to trust ourselves by those who profit from our insecurity, from confusing and destabilizing us. If the adults are confused, imagine what it's doing to children as they get bombarded daily with information in the media, online, and in our professional institutions, and most egregiously, in our schools.
While working at an LGBT nonprofit, I was paid in part by New York State to indoctrinate public school children with gender identity and transgender ideology. I had no idea what I was contributing to at the time. I was convinced I was doing the right thing, and nobody could tell me any differently. I have since become a whistleblower, working to document, expose, and publicly speak out about the attack on children being coordinated through the collusion of the state, corporate, and private sectors who use seemingly benevolent nonprofit organizations to push propaganda and target children through the public school systems.
It harkens to other times in history when children were being taught ideas that conflicted with their parents' ideas. African child soldiers, Chinese Revolution, North Korea, and yes, Nazi Germany. These people taught children because they knew that children and youth are easy to influence and to turn against parents who would likely protect them. We mothers, we feel betrayed by everyone. They've made us the enemy and weaponized our children against us. It's written in the laws and policies, so it must be true. But it's not. These laws were made to cut off our ability to do what we are meant to do. We are meant to parent our children. Those who made these laws are trying to take away our right to protect our children for their own aims, for their own profit.
After I was kicked out of the fertility awareness teacher training for refusing to say uterus, aber, menstruating human, and the like, I was brought to the realization that this was not going away.
There is no stronger instinct, not a more powerful motivator than the one to protect our children.
Most people don't believe me when I tell them that stating that only women give birth is now grounds for expulsion and social ostracization within the birth world.
We are the mothers. This is what we were made for. We won't be erased, and we will never give up. Not ever.
Mothers say no! Mothers say no! Mothers say no!
Mothers say no! We are here to state with absolute confidence that no child will ever be born in the wrong body. That's right. No man, no woman, no teacher, no social worker, no therapist, no neighbor, no institution should be telling a child that her brain does not match her body. Yes. That she can choose her gender, that maybe she can or will grow up to be a boy. That she may not be safe at home because her parents use sex-based pronouns, speak the name they lovingly chose for her at birth, and call her their daughter. No child should be told these lies. It is a lie that anyone has a gender identity and that it supersedes every strand of DNA in his body and every human being in front of his face. We all know what a woman is. We each came out of one. That's right.
No child deserves the confusion and chaos that you are shoving down his throat. Nothing will stop us from protecting children from the psychological and physical harms of the lie that is gender identity.
That's right.
Children should be given the freedom to grow up to become an adult without the politics of people and profit injected into their lives. Children are a class of people who need and deserve our protection from these saviors and sinners who aim to claim them as objects in their crusades for power and profit. We have come together to say enough. 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 Keep your puberty blockers out of the arms of children. They cannot consent. Keep your wrong sex hormones out of the bodies of children. They cannot consent. Keep your experimental medicine away from children. They cannot consent. Keep your scalpels and silicone away from bodies. They cannot consent. And keep your pronouns out of my mouth. I do not consent.
Children cannot consent! Children cannot consent! Children cannot consent!
We reject the term gender identity. Women are fully embodied, fully sexed, whole human beings. Our lifelong physical development process that starts at birth and ends in death is not reducible to an identity.
So how is it that in less than 25 years, women are an undefinable class? Sexism. How is it that men are women based on their feelings? Sexism.
Yes.
How is it that women are no longer a sex class based on biology and material reality, but are now a class of people based on the feelings some men claim to have, which cause them to believe they know what being a woman feels like? Sexism.
We're here today to stand for all the women of the world engaged in struggle against the trans agenda. Women are being re-traumatized at rape crisis centers and support groups, sexually assaulted by so-called lesbian men in single-sex spaces, and all our hard-earned social and political allocations, even sports and scholarships, are being hemorrhaged. We here today represent only a small portion of this resistance.
We came together at these gates from all walks of life and backgrounds to stand up and fight for a future where our daughters are no longer forced to physically compete against males in sport for scholarships, where our daughters are no longer demoralized and disheartened before the competition even begins, because they know they cannot possibly fairly or safely compete against male competitors, and where they are no longer forced to share their locker rooms with male bodies. I feel defeated before even stepping on the track. Those are the words of a then 16-year-old Alana Smith, who was forced as a freshman in high school to encounter male opponents on a racetrack. Another athlete, Chelsea Mitchell, who was forced to race against boys also
also in Connecticut, was censored by USA Today when she tried to speak out about her experience. The voices of girls who speak out against the harms being done to females in the name of gender ideology are being silenced and erased. The International Olympic Committee has turned to the UN for its guidelines, which now trickle down to every level of sports, erasing the definition of what female sports are, as well as the guidelines to qualify to compete in them. Gender identity is a corporate fiction being used to make it impossible to distinguish women and girls as a biologically separate and distinct entity from males, and erasing policy and laws that protect us on the basis of sex. Males who identify as women are replacing us in sports, scholarships, public office, the boardroom, you name it. They are forcing themselves into our formerly private, sex-separated spaces. If we do not stop playing nice and start getting real soon, we will find ourselves in a position we are no longer legally or socially allowed to even mount a resistance. In my work, I stress that defending women and girls is not a partisan or religious issue. The erasure of females in the name of gender identity is being perpetrated on all levels, state, local, federal, and as we've seen, international. It's being bankrolled and institutionalized by supranational governing bodies like the United Nations via Agenda 2030 and the Sustainability Goals.
The UN is not merely complicit in female erasure. It is actively promulgating.
The forced inclusion of males into female sports is a canary in the coal mine, people. A terrifying image of the real threat to the safety of women and girls and the continuation of humanity as we know it.
The attack on our female sex-based rights in the name of gender identity, LGBT equality, and trans rights must be understood as part of a strategic, orchestrated campaign financed and managed by the world's most powerful institutions, not only for the preservation of increasingly exploitative global economic growth and consolidation of power, but for the colonization of the female body's reproductive capacity and the creation of a system of total technological population control. We will never comply with the lies of transgender ideology. Men are not women. Men will never be women. Females are the rightful keepers of birth and of humanity. Join me in saying no to the spread of gender identity laws and policies that erase sex-based protections of females, and saying yes to the call to courage to stand up in the unapologetic defense of women and girls everywhere. We will hold the line for humanity. We will not allow the future that they want to build to come to pass. And we will only grow in our understanding and in our numbers. Women will not comply. Women will not consent.
We demand boundaries around our bodies. We demand that sex be recognized as the significant axis of our oppression. This is our public testimony. This is a public record of our dissent and our demands. Women say no to our dehumanization and erasure. We will not be silent.
Women say no! Women say no! Women say no! Defend women and girls! Fight for future generations! All eyes on United Nations! We are adults, human, females, and we won't back down!
No one can tell us where were the women when this was going down. We are here, and this is our dissent. We do not comply. We do not agree with this. We do not accept this in any
Women
form.
say no! Get mad! Get out there! Get talking! Yeah!
Thank you, Beth.
incredible public speaker.
Thank you so much. Is she phenomenal? She put all this together.
The veil is lifted. We are steadfast in our understanding, and we make no mistake in accurately identifying women and girls as the target of a highly organized and intentionally invisibilized war against us that defies the man-made boundaries of all countries, parties, and religions. Mothers and babies are under attack! Stand up! Babies are under attack!
Stand up! Fight back!
Mothers and babies are under attack!
Stand up! Fight back!
Pregnant women are under attack!
Stand up! Fight back!
Daughters are under attack!
Stand up! Fight back!
Granddaughters are under attack!
Stand up! Fight back!
We are standing in front of the United Nations! They have changed the definition of gender to include gender identity, which is incompatible with protecting the sex-based rights of women and girls. It is up to us to keep telling the truth. We will not allow the future that they want to build to come to pass. Hold the line, stop female erasure, defend humanity. We are adults, human, females, and we won't back down.
All eyes on United Nations!
Fight for future generations! Defend women and girls! Defend women and girls! Defend women and girls! Defend women and girls! Defend girls!
Yeah, they all want to be here, so it's...
Defend women and girls! Defend women and girls! Defend women and girls!
United Nations fight for future
generations!
Defend women and girls!
Defend women and girls! Defend women and girls!
We are adults,
human females, and we won't back down!
Defend women and girls!
Defend women and girls! The line! Hold the line! Hold the line!
The issue is simple. It's not complex.
Keep prison single sex!
Men and women's prison. We object.
Keep prison single sex!
Keep prison single sex.
Keep prison single sex! Keep prison single sex!
Stay tuned because the bonus footage starts in 4 minutes. Find fully sourced information on the United Nations role in the erasure of the sex-based rights of women and girls worldwide by visiting stopfemalerasure.com. You will also find shareable infographics for your social media posts, speaker bios, and full-length speeches from the Stop Female Erasure 2022 United Nations protest.
And by the way, trans women are men!
Follow me on Instagram at stopfemalerasure_ for more reports from the front lines of the fight to stop female erasure. Stick up for the truth and plant seeds wherever you go with one-of-a-kind stickers featuring infographics that tell a whole story. One sticker is worth at least 1,000 words. Get them talking and thinking. Buy exclusive designs now at stopfemalerasure.com to help support independent, female-created media.
Wake up, America.
Wake up, USA!
In a recent attempt to silence my voice, Patreon removed my account for hate speech, seized all of my accumulated funds, and disconnected me from my monthly supporters.
Hands up for you!
Children cannot consent!
If you want to see more informative, well-researched, bold, and exclusive content you won't see anywhere else from the unique perspective of a former trans rights activist and LGBT nonprofit whistleblower, you can make a donation or become a monthly supporter at givebutter.com/the Deprogrammer XX. You can also make a donation by visiting paypal.me/stopfemalerasure. Be sure to select friends and family to avoid fees. You can also Venmo K Yang at Stop Female Erasure. This is K Yang, and you're watching The Deprogrammer. In an age of growing technological censorship and socially expected self-censorship, I am researching, connecting the dots, and creating original analysis demonstrating the seamless trajectory of transgenderism into transhumanism against the backdrop of worldwide, historical, and ongoing female erasure. To find more content from me, follow me on Instagram at the Deprogrammer XX, where you can browse an archive of over 500 short videos and original infographics. YouTube has removed a number of my videos for alleged hate speech. You can now view banned content exclusively on my website, thedeprogrammer.com. Due to increasing censorship, this channel could disappear at any time. Subscribe to my backup channel by navigating from my main channel to the top right corner and clicking the Channels tab. As always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and don't let them gaslight you.
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, some fun stuff. We just had a mom say to us, I'm just a mom. And yeah, that's correct. We are the people who proliferate the entire nation and the entire world. So yeah, just moms.
I can't tell you how many times I hear mothers say, I'm just a mom. You're not just a mom. You're a mom, and moms are amazing, and we can do a lot.
And no child should be medically transitioned, ever, ever.
You know, I mean, you can think of things like we were told not to breastfeed our babies. We were told to put our children our autistic children in mental health facilities. These are things that the experts told us to do. And we know these things are wrong. We know that now. And even at the time, I think we all knew they were wrong because it didn't feel right. As a mother and as parents, we knew those things we had to override those feelings. And we did that because the experts told us. What are these experts doing for us? You know, we've done this through millennia without the experts. We know how to do this. We know how to parent our children. And we need to pay attention to those gut instincts. We need to pay attention to those feelings that tell us that these things are wrong. We know.
Our instincts and our sense perceptions, that's what keep us in touch with reality, and that's what we really need to affirm for kids, is to stay in touch with our sense perceptions and reality.
But what I do believe is that positive things happen when people come together. And so come together with people, make a plan, talk to each other. There's nothing superhuman about us. We're just human beings making things happen. So you can do that too.
But I did want to speak to the white flowers. The white flowers were a symbol of the suffragettes. So we're wearing these in remembrance of all of the work that our foremothers did. The suffragettes were some of the women who put in place the first single-sex provisions for women. The suffragettes were instrumental in getting public bathrooms for women. Women used to have a thing called the urinary leash, where we didn't have our own public bathrooms. We stand in a really strong historical lineage of that.
But please do, join us on the streets or join us online, and do everything that you can. You really are capable of doing so many things you don't even know.
Jenna, you're here with WLRN.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't by myself, but I'm repping WLRN.
Yeah, okay, good. So I'm gonna bring Jenna in, and I'm gonna let her talk a little bit. Please, why don't you tell us about
And yeah, so I just came out today to support Raise My Voice. This is actually the first time I've ever participated in something like this, and it felt incredible for all the women who are watching. If you haven't done something like this and you're afraid to, it feels amazing to raise your voice. It feels amazing to raise your voice and say, women say no, protect women and girls. We do not consent. And honestly, I always expect to get a lot of pushback, to see it pushback. And there's always people who support because it's logical and it's real. So check out WLRN, keep following Known Heretic, keep following the Deprogrammer, and thanks for watching today.